Welcome to Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready, we're about to live in your head rent-free. Hello, Otterites! Welcome to episode 136. I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis.
So, I've got the driver's seat for the
Nice one.
Oh, very nice. Very good stuff.
Just made that up on the fly. So, Otterites, this is a Hoopajoob!
Hoopajoob! Yes, baby.
So,
Loves it.
This is Fifth Friday. So Hoopajoobs, as you know, are basically...
New Year's Eve.
Yeah, just anything we want it to be. And this one's a little... I don't know. What would you say? This was kind of off the reservation of what we normally would be doing?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Because, none of us are really super gearheads.
No. I mean... we're going to talk about cars, and cars that we would like to have, or cars that we would like to have back, that kind of thing. But I guess, I'm probably the gearheadiest of us.
Well,
because
all of our fathers were into this, though.
My dad did it for a living.
Well, I know. Mine did, too, in many ways. So, we're kind of sons of gearheads, can we say? At least two of us are,
Well,
right?
you two are.
Right, yeah. I mean, you picked up what you picked up because you want to.
Yeah.
My father could, from a certain period back... he could shuffle that stuff like cards. He knew how to handle any of that sort of stuff. And, those, but of course, their gearheads were, 50s stuff. That's where they really, 60s stuff,
Yeah. So we, again, I'm probably the one that watches the most of the
Top Gear and stuff.
Top Gear and the Resto Mod type shows, the restoration shows, like on the Motor Trend channel. But we wanted to just, again, with the Hoopajoob, we can kind of make this go anywhere we want. So we're just going to kind of kick around cool cars, things that we would like to have or like to have back, or maybe, I don't think any of us ever had a cool car in our lives.
There's something about one's first car. Even if it was a piece of shit. Now you're shaking your head. You're not agreeing with me.
I'm hoping that both of my first cars have now been crushed and recycled into.
Really?
I'm hoping like part of it's that ice bucket over there that you
Really?
They use the steel for that ice bucket.
I still occasionally dream that my first car is around and it's one of my extra cars. And it's kind of sitting somewhere, and I find myself getting into it, even though it ran well. 77 Nova, two-tone hardtop.
You had the 78. I'm positive you had the 78.
Okay, maybe it was 78.
Because I had the 77.
Okay, maybe you're exactly.
Because you're talking about the blue one, right?
You remember it, absolutely.
Yeah.
The blue bottom, white hardtop.
Four-door.
Four-door.
That's the 78.
That's
I guarantee
a four-door Nova.
Yeah. It's 350 engine.
That's kind of the max uncool.
No, the bad boy works fantastic.
See, I had the two-door 77.
That's that could be cool.
That's the one that I really... I also had, which is a sister car, in high school, I had a 76 Olds Omega.
Yes, that's
sister car.
And
it's nearly identical to the 77.
That's
just
what they call it, brand engineering or badge engineering.
Yeah. So, Ford and GM were famous for this. I don't know if Chrysler did it as much, but they just took the same car, slapped different labels on it.
Yeah,
did you talk about
occasionally changed the trim.
Did you talk about the yellow one? The
well,
color,
that was the Palomino.
The Palomino. Okay,
that was the Palomino, which I later did paint red.
I had forgotten that,
and had a silver understripe, but I don't think I ever brought it back to. Down here.
Yeah, because when we were riding in it, when you hit the concrete one time,
it was the Palomino.
It was the Palomino.
Yeah, we were driving down Outer Loop, and there's stuff in front of us, and it
was a
drove
huge
over it,
chunk of concrete that
and didn't have any time to swerve.
That's right. I mean, literally, somebody else in front of us swerved, and there it is, and
too late.
Boom, and it hits the thing, and it won't go into reverse now.
Won't go into any other gear.
I was going to say it was stuck in gear completely.
I fixed that on my own.
Did you really?
I did
not know that.
Figured out what the part was, went to the junkyard, put it on, and fixed it myself.
Yeah, that was kind of some scary stuff. Thinking, okay,
was it just
now
a linkage,
basically, yeah.
And it was, oh man, if we were suing type of people and we knew who to sue, that I could see.
Oh
that.
yeah, that's always the trouble.
Yeah,
so
it was huge.
And the definition of a cool car also varies a touch.
Yes,
depending on what your interests are. I'm real big right now into four-wheelers as far as what's cool. And, of course, that's where the market is, too.
Right.
A restored first generation Ford Bronco
Oh yeah.
is
Really?
like 60, 70 grand.
Yeah, that's the
They're
bomb.
they're enormous, and you're talking about a car that's as basic. I mean, it's barely more than a golf cart.
Now the first
the vehicle.
well, I mean, it's a little bit bigger than a golf cart because the Ranger's a golf cart.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as mechanical,
Yeah.
I mean, and of course, a lot of people when they do them, yank the engines and put in new motors and all
Sure.
that stuff.
So that Bronco. So I remember my dad having Broncos. Now, one of the ones he had was one where that hard top in the back just was removed,
yes,
and it was almost like a
El Camino.
El Camino without the thing being closed off.
Those are the later when they grew and got big.
I'm just imaging that in my mind.
Yeah,
It's just kinda-
but that was a thing. GM did that with the K5 Blazer. The back was fiberglass and could unbolt, and you take it off, and you had an open air four wheeler. And yes, those if you can get a hold of one of those and get it restored, they're worth huge money.
Nice,
huge money.
Yeah, I remember the dad having Broncos. They were tough.
Yeah.
I mean, the kind of stuff Dad did. I mean, he beat the crap out of his vehicles, especially if it was anything he had to haul car parts in.
Well, yeah, I understand that. Well, the guy I used to work for, you remember him, Mickey? He had a Scout that he drove. I mean, it was from I don't even remember. It's one of the first years the thing was made.
Yeah,
and
that an International Harvester?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh man, it's too bad Marcus Aurelius is not here.
Yeah,
he loves his.
Oh, well, he drove that Scout for when I was working for him. You're talking about 87, 88, and it was old then. I don't remember what the first year that thing was, but he had taken it everywhere. I mean, it was like you drag the damn thing through the mud, and it still fires every single time.
And mechanically, a lot of those vehicles were very unsophisticated.
Yeah.
I think the original Scout, the windshield wipers were based on the engine vacuum instead of electric.
Really?
So you keep your speed up to keep the windshield wipers going.
That's nice. That made it, what was the first you might remember? I don't know if you remember.
Marcus Aurelius would know, but the first Scouts were early 70s, I think.
I don't think his was quite that old. It was mid to late 70s when he bought it.
Yeah.
And it was at least 10 to 15 years old when he was driving it.
Yeah.
The thing I love about all of these vehicles that we're talking about, because obviously they're from our youth.
Yeah.
They're going to be some 60s cars. I mean, I got to say, when I was a kid, I wanted a 57 Chevy so bad.
Well, that's kind
one
of
of those red and white two-tone jobs. Oh my gosh!
Well, that was our dad's kind of car because that's when they were running around as teenagers.
But I mean, that was older. But I mean, 57. That's the iconic Chevy.
That's the one.
Of the
that's
50s.
Right. It was the one. That,
and my father wouldn't touch a Ford, and absolutely would never touch a foreign car. It was Chevrolet, and that's all it was.
But foreign cars. No. When you grow up in Detroit, foreign cars.
Well,
not a good thing.
Kentucky was kind of the same way. It was you always bought that stuff, and he was very brand. That was a brand thing for him.
Brand loyalty was important in the 60s.
My dad worked at Cadillac dealership, so when he was there, we always had Cadillacs,
which is kind of cool.
So 74, 75, 76, 70 into 77, we always had a Cadillac around. Actually, we even had one up to 1980 or 81. That was a green one with the white vinyl top. It wasn't a convertible, but it was,
Oh, yeah.
But, where I'm going with this, one of the things I love about these cars is that guys like us could actually work on these cars.
Well, yeah.
Because they're not that complicated. There's not all this electronics.
To a mechanic. My father did all that.
These things could survive an EMP. I mean, seriously, when you think about it, the cars we drive today,
Never.
EMP, whether it's a weapon or one of these coronal mass ejections that fries all the electronics.
That sounds vaguely sexual, but I won't go there.
Yeah, well, there was one in the 1800s that was very severe, and it fried some of the telegraph system, but there wasn't any real electronics around, so it was a really minor thing.
Okay,
and we've discussed this before, and we won't dwell on this too much, but part of the fascination with vehicles from those eras, especially the 60s and 70s, you could tell them apart.
Yeah.
Of course, today's cars, everything from a Jaguar to a Mazda looks almost identical.
Yeah. Well, even in the
the what do you call it? The aerodynamics and trying to get gas mileage. They all look exactly alike. They all look like bathtubs or jelly beans.
Was probably one of the early instigators of this.
The Taurus.
With the Taurus.
Is kind of
that's what they even called the new Aero design.
Yeah.
And it was made a big deal about it. And those were sharp-looking cars when they first came out because everything, not everything, but by the standards then, everything was rounded off, everything was smooth, aerodynamic looking, almost looked kind of space agey. And all the cars before that had very sharp edges and corners. It was very boxy. So they made a big splash.
Even the Tauruses themselves, because they didn't start out that way. I remember.
No, they did.
Yeah.
But for the time, compared to the other cars,
you're not talking about that redesign they did in the late '90s,
right? No, that one everybody hated. That's the one that had the oval window in the back.
Yeah,
and that did not sell well. That's when they shifted
back
to a new design.
Yeah,
and when they did that, which actually what they did, they were making something called the 500.
Yeah,
and they retired the old design, renamed the 500 Taurus because it was basically a Taurus
because it was a very popular brand.
It was.
Yeah,
that brand until that redesign.
Yeah,
outsold Toyotas.
Yeah,
it was
huge.
The number one sedan several years in a row.
Yes, Camrys, Accords, and the and the Taurus were kind of the big three as far as sales go.
Exactly,
for a long stretch.
But that's probably the instigated this look-alike stuff. I mean, there's look-alike in the sense that you take one car and you brand it something else, but this is a design philosophy.
Yeah,
and like you look at Ford's offerings today, from the Fiesta to my Focus to an Escape, an Explorer, an Edge, or even the C-Max. Unless you talk about the Focus that is the sedan. It's the only sedan along with the Mustang.
Yeah.
And neither one of them are made here. Actually, Focus, I don't even know if they're making a sedan of anymore.
I want to say they stopped that.
The Focus is getting dropped entirely.
It might be.
The only car, quote, passenger car, is going to be the Mustang.
I think the Focus might still be... Well, I think it's going to be around outside the U.S.,
Yeah.
I don't know about inside the U.S. because it's a very popular car too. It occupies that escort niche.
Yeah.
Escort and tempo. But anyways, if you look at all these cars, especially the hatchback versions of the ones that do come in a sedan, it's the same damn thing scaled up. Every one of them. You look at a C-Max, it's a big brother to the Focus. And the C-Max is a little brother to the Escape and the Explorer. Which is not necessarily a bad thing because they're doing well with it.
Well, it's been a very popular brand for many long time.
But it's so many cars, even across manufacturers, look so alike. Mazdas are attractive cars, but to me they look exactly like the Hyundais and exactly like the Kias.
Yes.
And it's really hard to find anything that looks different from its competitors.
Yes, driving down the road sometimes I'll see a vehicle and it's like, oh, that's nice. Wait. Oh, I have to look at the logo to see what the damn thing is.
Yeah. They differ only in the tail
generic.
lights.
The cars that we grew up loving all have a unique character, a unique identity.
There's an art to it that has been replaced by a science. Dare I say that?
In a lot of ways, you
can
probably say that. I mean, all design, even when you make it the basis for a design philosophy, is going to be some art, and there's also going to be a lot of science to it as well because you want it to be as aerodynamic as possible. The least drag coefficient for gas mileage and all these things, because you've got federal standards you have to meet. So you science the hell out of these things nowadays to meet those standards.
Yeah.
But the cars that we grew up with, they just had a different character to them.
They tried to make them look different from other manufacturers.
Well, yes, form did not follow function as tightly then as it does now.
Well, we come from an era when we named our cars.
Yeah.
Now, my daughter, she still names her car. She named her car that she got from me, which is funny because, well, actually, I did name the black Focus I had, but, she renamed it. Hers is a feminine car, so I guess that makes it a transgender because mine was masculine. I always thought of it that way.
Okay, well, let's skip
a bit, brother.
Skip a bit, brother, yes. But anyways, it wasn't uncommon for us to name our cars more so than it is today. It's just not the same.
It's like naming your horse. All good cowboys name their horses.
Yeah.
So therefore, all good drivers name their cars.
That's a good lead-in, though, for the first car I wanted to bring up as a car I would love to get my hands on.
Okay.
Because it's known as the most beautiful car ever designed. And that is the Jaguar E-Type.
Really?
As they were known in the US, the XKE.
Oh, well, okay,
okay.
yes. Actually, Jim Steranko had Nick Fury driving one of those back in the day.
Charles Heston owned one.
I have always liked the Jaguar. The Jaguar.
That's Patrick Stewart, of course, Jaguar.
Yeah.
It's supposedly he still drives one. He had a green Jag for years, and that's just kind of his thing.
Yeah. But this was, again, in the 60s, race heritage, it's supposed to be all tied into their racing program. Straight six engines. They were gorgeous. Just the curves and the fender and the design. Of course, you can get
Very
them with
womanly,
a drop top.
dare I say?
Very curvy.
Yes. In that time,
voluptuous.
there you
And
go.
fast. And it was for its time, it was one of the fastest cars out there. Just gorgeous, gorgeous British design. The Jaguar E-Type. Very famous and woo, doggy's gorgeous.
Yeah, classic lines. That's the thing about a lot of these cars.
Yeah.
It's like we're talking about a beautiful woman.
Well, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
kind of...
Well, for some guys, and I don't think as much for us, but for some guys, that's very much the kind of relationship or
wife substitute
in some
for some folks.
for some folks, their car is a substitute for other things.
Well, okay, penile substitution. Okay,
Yeah. Well, that's usually the hot rods.
I
That's
suppose yes.
the F650 with so many lights on it, it looks like a Christmas tree.
Well, those I always say that those always crack me up when you see the trucks going down the road. They have little balls hanging off the back.
Yeah.
Because you're admitting that you have a small penis. Because your truck is a substitute.
I
for
was
it.
That's
thinking that very same
whenever
thing.
Bjorn sees a truck that large, he goes, "Oh, micro penis."
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's
Sorry, guys. Sorry, Otterites. If you drive a large truck,
Yeah,
it's
because
okay.
if you drive that large a truck in the city, that's going to be my first thought.
Yeah.
If you have that truck in the rural areas, a farm, a ranch, whatever,
Well, it's
that
worth
is
it.
perfectly acceptable.
I'm sure you need it for something. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's like your dog works on your farm, and so does your truck. I mean,
Yeah.
or what was it they said? Men in Black. The only thing that pulls its weight around here is my dad truck, and then of course the meteor smashes. Boom! It figures.
Yeah.
Vincent D'Onofrio, we love you. He's the man.
Yeah. Oh, talk about somebody that the Otterites or the Snakes and Otters would like to meet. Vincent D'Onofrio.
Absolutely.
What an
Yes.
actor!
My God!
How about dedication to
the
craft?
Kingpin. I mean, if you watch the Netflix Daredevil series, my God, he is him. He will always be him. He was
He was
amazingly
phenomenal.
good with that.
But anyways, cars.
So let me give you another one. Since I kicked out the Jaguar E-Type, let me throw another one at you. Now this one is. I love this one because of James Bond. 1971 Mustang Mach 1.
Diamonds are forever.
Diamonds are forever in red.
Yep.
I love that car.
Yeah, I gotta say the
With
early
Tiffany case in the
Mustangs-
passenger seat, dare I say that?
That'd be awesome.
The early Mustangs are just something. I mean, they really are. Especially that first one. Even the 65, 66, 67 Mustangs, they're just all phenomenal machines.
It's one of those early examples of product placement because
Yeah.
they paid the manufacturer paid a boatload of money to do that.
Yeah.
Just as the Ford Cougar did in the movie before that, on Her Majesty's Secret Service, which Diana Rigg drove.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. And you don't drive American cars much in Europe where most of that takes place, but that was product placement because by that time Bond was a guaranteed sell.
Yeah, those are great cars. They really are.
Those first two generations of Mustangs up until 74.
Yeah, when they took the side scoops out of the Mustang is when they killed the Mustang. Because that is something that just I hated every one of those that didn't have the scoops.
Yeah.
Carved, but stamped into the doors and everything. It's not a Mustang without those.
Well, in the Mustang 2, in 74, there was solid reasoning behind going there, but
you got to keep what makes your car stand out.
yeah.
Those design elements, and they became very generic cars.
Yeah.
Science assassinated art.
Yeah, well-
Well, it's they lost a lot of the driving dynamics, changing to a different, what do we call it, chassis setup and everything. But I mean, the Mustang 2 was much more of a close spiritual successor to the original. It's much more on that size to the 64.5, 65 Mustangs. It's just our memories of those were, obscured by the much larger 71, 72, 73s.
Yeah.
429 Boss and all that stuff.
So, that they've made an electric Mustang.
Yes, the Mach E, which is more of an SUV.
And from what I understand, that thing can fly.
Yes.
Which is an amazing thing for an all-electric vehicle.
They're kind of turning Mustang into more of a sub-brand or more than a make. Now Mustang is a make, but now they want to change it into kind of a sub-brand and have stuff underneath that umbrella of Mustang.
Sure.
And make it, but it's supposed to be really neat.
Yeah.
And electric cars are quite the the engineering accomplishment. Certainly a Tesla would be very desirable.
Well, there are plenty of those around this town. I don't know if you all have noticed.
Oh, yeah.
There are tons of them.
There are lots of Teslas around.
Yeah. I love the idea of an electric vehicle, but it's just impractical for anything other than driving around town.
Yeah, if you're not city driving,
or driving somewhere where city to city, where you don't have to I would never drive it to Michigan because it'd take me 2 days to get there.
Yeah, you can't make it.
Right. Because I couldn't make it on a single charge, and I'd have to find some place to charge it on the way and stay there for 8 hours.
Yep.
So,
if only there was a paradigm where you could re-energize your vehicle quickly and then be back on your way. Oh.
Well, that's one of the things I like about some of the hybrids. So, my former pastor, whom we all enjoy hanging out with, because he has always great bourbon and cigars.
Oh, yes, we can only aspire to the bourbon collection, that's for sure.
He has one of those C-Maxes, and he has an early one from 2013.
Yeah.
All city driving. He almost never took it anywhere outside the city. He would regularly fill up at best once a month, and he could get 90 miles per gallon.
Oh, yeah.
On a tank. So you're looking at basically 1,000 miles on a tank of gas. Because the charge itself, they say it lasts about 25 miles, and it also has that, I forget what they call it, but it's where the brakes recapture some of the energy.
Yes, the regenerative braking.
Regenerative, thank you. Now, I'm sure that 8 years later, the cars are much more efficient, the batteries, and probably that regenerative braking is much more efficient. So I'm kind of getting to the point where I wouldn't mind having something electric for my in-town car.
Yeah.
Because, I love it, especially since I don't ever go anywhere.
Yeah.
But it also, that's an awful lot of money for something I don't, when I don't ever go anywhere.
and we all know the absolute joy of the road trip. We've done it,
yes,
we've done it many times.
You still got to have a car for the road trip. That's true.
And of course, you could always rent that. That's not.
But see, that's why I like the hybrid.
Yeah.
Because you get the best of both worlds. You can still take it on the road.
That's right.
But for the local driving, you still get some of the the benefits.
A lot of the hybrids, at least when I was researching a little bit, having recently bought a car and having an interest in this, sometimes you don't really get that big of a boost in your average mileage over the all gas. Hybrid adds weight.
Yes, it does.
It adds a lot of weight, and again, it depends on your driving habits and things like that.
Yes, that is the big key.
How you get, if you get 35 or 40 miles to the gallon, well, that's awesome. But if your driving doesn't lend itself to that, then you're back at...
Well,
if you're a
lifestyle trumps everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, if you're a leadfoot who's accelerating constantly until you get to the very last second and slams on the brakes, first you're not going to get the regenerative braking the way you need to because that's not the way to use it. But that's going to, first that's going to screw your regular gas mileage.
Again, right, surface streets versus the interstate versus how long a stretch on the interstate, all of that stuff plays into your mileage. And
how flat it is, whether you're going uphill,
right?
All that stuff.
And I'm very, very pleased with my SUV. Has this automatic start stop. So if I'm at once the car's warmed up, if I'm at lights, engine goes off, and I'm not using any gas at all.
Her Majesty's Jeep Cherokee is that way. It was disconcerting when we first started driving it because when we go somewhere, I always drive.
Yeah,
I'm just
if you're not
Will
used to
Smith.
it,
I'm sorry, I got to drive. It's just a thing,
Yeah, it is weird if you're not used to it. Why'd the car stop?
Yeah,
but
once you get used to it, it's not. Yeah, it's not a problem at all.
I love it. And on good days or good tanks of gas, when I've done some interstate driving, I'm getting 30 plus miles to the gallon. And
you can always let off the brake just a little bit, restarts the engine in case you need that burst of speed to get out of something quickly.
Yeah,
yeah. So, which of course, as we were saying, none of those are things that we could ever work on ourselves.
No.
Which is one of the huge. Even my brother, who is now down here in Louisville, he's the same way. He doesn't like working on any of the new cars because you don't have the tools. It costs a lot to have the tools to be able to work on.
It's specialization stuff.
Yeah.
You got a good mechanic is kind of like a good hairstylist or a good confessor, or
yes,
there is a
if you
trust
know
level.
what to do with a new car, it's a good living. I mean,
it really is.
It's like working in HVAC or plumbing or something.
That's right.
It's good money.
You will be able to afford
if
lots
you know
of
what
good
you're
things.
doing.
Okay, so are you done with your?
I have one more car to throw out to you, but I'll share here and kick out, or we can stop for a quick bourbon break if you like.
Let's do that since I did mention bourbon a minute ago.
Well,
yes,
by the time
we're getting ready to pour something.
Exactly.
Here.
We haven't. Most episodes we start with one in the glass. This time we're not doing it that way. We're actually going to pass it out and pull it here. This time we are back at Studio F. We're in Johnny's game room, just down the hall from Reed's lab again. The boys,
next to the negative zone.
That's right, exactly. Got to be careful of it that way. But we're I'm letting the boys choose what we've got from the selection here. They're using the ice today. I'm not going to. I'm going to probably pick mine last. I've got just a little bit of Woodford. Who wants it?
I think I'm going to claim the last of your Woodford.
All right,
feel free.
Feel free. Done so, sir. It's
thank you.
That
I
way
appreciate the generosity.
Yes, and Robertius, do you have a favor?
Either the basil or the AE.
Oh well, come on, be decisive here. Which one do you want?
I decided for you.
All right,
he decided for you. He hands over the Angel's Envy.
Because what I figured is we would each have a different one.
Well, I was going to do exactly the same thing on that one. Because the Angel's Envy is my wife's personal stash. I am dancing on the edge of the neutral zone by bringing that into our rotation.
Yes. So, Otterites, if next month you hear us and there's only Martin and I on the show, you know that it's because Francis is either dead or incapacitated.
That's right.
He's been hurled through the gateway in the negative zone
and having to find my way back.
Yeah, Nihilus is stuffing you down the toilet.
Yeah. So, God, don't even think about that.
And I appreciate the Admiral Jarrock reference there.
Of course.
You think you can dance on the edge of the neutral zone?
I use that in common parlance all the time, and most people don't get the exact reference.
I just rewatched The Defector last night.
Oh, excellent!
Excellent.
One of my all-time favorites.
It's favorite episode.
It's
such good writing.
Well, that's Ron Moore. And that's why he...
It was second episode he wrote? Something like that?
I want to say, it's he did the bonding first with the little kid that became Worf's little brother that was a disaster all the way around, which I think was a spec script that he did. And this was either the second or third. He may have done one in between that. It was very shortly after that. And it reset the tone completely.
Well, the best thing about it is it took it, not to really go off on a rabbit hole, but since we are,
Sure.
One of the best things about that episode is that is a script that with minor modifications you could put in a lot of different places. So it's in a way it's a very generic script.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's kind of a thriller-esque kind of thing, only set in space in Star Trek. But the fact that he made that work as a Star Trek script, wholly without any problems, and like, that I see what you're doing, but he didn't fail.
Well,
it was a clean win all the way around.
Right, because
with that script.
Because the tone was very militaristic at times. It was very almost Clancy-esque, which is very against Roddenberry's orders. But Roddenberry's third season is waning at this time. Thank God, because everything changed around this time.
It brings in the idea of the political thriller. It's almost kind of Robert Ludlum-like, or Clancy-like.
Yeah, because it's a bigger story. Ludlums are usually more personal, with a couple of several characters. This is the big story. World.
It's a world building story.
It is. It's making the Romulans a villain again.
Yeah.
Which, they tried to do that in the first season when they brought them back, we're back, and as Marina Sirtis would say, it's who cares?
Yes.
Yeah. This actually made them dangerous again.
Right, when you put it together with the enemy.
Which is, and
they were a bit before the first meeting.
And those were intended to be...
Yes, the incident at Glorndon Court.
The incident...
Well, how do you know about that? It was common knowledge.
That's right.
You're particularly well informed for a logistics clerk. Anyway, Otterites, if you have not watched The Enemy and The Defector. These are episodes, again, of Star Trek that have... Next Generation, that bring the Romulans back in as very dangerous. The Defector is James Sloyan. Am I pronouncing that correct?
James B. Sloyan. Yeah, that's right. He was the character. He was the actor who portrayed the Romulan Admiral Gerard. He actually played in several iterations. He's one of the few. He played a Romulan, a Klingon, and a completely different alien, as well as a Bajoran in Deep Space Nine. He's done 4 different.
And I remember him very distinctly as Mottola in The Sting. He's the guy who kind of sets the whole thing off. He's the numbers runner who gets taken by Robert Redford. So he's a
phenomenal actor. He's a really great character actor.
Great character actor.
Really is.
Right.
Was he the guy who played Odo's father?
That's exactly it.
Yes,
the Bajoran. Yeah. Doctor. I cannot remember his name. Actually, that's surprising. But
he was
Marla. I think Dr. Marla. Something.
Yeah,
like
he was the guy who found Odo and basically experimented on him until he became
to realize what he was.
Yeah.
And that was a really meaty role for a great character actor. Of course, every one of those he played Worf's future son, Alexander. Mm-hmm. Later in that 7th season, he comes back in time as a Klingon, and it was really
he was tremendous as Admiral Gerard, the Defector, who is trying to prevent a war, but he's being used by Tomalak and the Romulan High Command. There's just a ton of great stuff. Patrick Stewart got to do some Shakespeare in the beginning, which he loved.
That was kind of his. He kind of lobbied.
That was
for
the one where he does the Henry V.
Henry V. That's right.
Yeah, Band of Brothers
with
speech.
Data.
Exactly. Around the
it's
fire.
a black matter for the king who led them to it.
That's right. Yeah, and it's that changed everything, because it's kind of like this turning point for the series where Patrick Stewart could be more British, even though he's supposed to have been French.
Is probably my favorite season of Trek, just because it really came into its own and not just stumbled into it. It like exploded into its own.
And a lot of that was Ron Moore coming on board because he was a fantastic writer. And Roddenberry Wayne's.
And Roddenberry's interest, or at least activity, because his health was failing.
That's correct. That's right. But that's one of the reasons that the first season kind of sucked. It was like we're trying to do the same thing over again, and it's 20 years later, and let's not do exactly that.
It was the first step to having I said it was world building. It really is. It's first step to getting away from bottle episodes.
It is. Yeah. The third season especially is these arcs that they keep coming back to.
They ended up doing a 2-parter, which was unheard of. The only reason that the original series did it was just because they had to take the cage and fit it in somehow. But it wasn't a cliffhanger. I guess it was a cliffhanger. Yeah, I mean, but certainly not a season-ending.
Right.
Cliffhanger.
I mean, I remember at the end of season 3 that summer, everybody was talking about the next.
I know, it's the summer we got married.
I mean, everybody talked.
That's right. It was literally that next weekend we got married.
What's going to happen?
It wasn't quite as big as Who Shot JR, but damn, it was up there.
It was up there. That's exactly right.
It was a big deal that whole summer of Riker opened fire on Picard.
Yeah, and what the hell's going to happen next? Yeah. That's right.
All right, well, back to
bourbon, because we haven't even talked about our bourbon, much less finished our cars.
Well, I was talking about Angel's Envy is what you're drinking.
Yes.
This is the first time it's made an appearance since one of our early episodes.
That's true.
Because we
also got in trouble. Well,
we got in trouble because we drank too much of it that time and drank the whole bottle, and my wife was not expecting that. And it was next time she went, and foolish me never replaced it like I should have, like a good considerate husband should.
Yes.
And next thing, we had an event not long after that, and it was, where's my Angel's Envy? And it was, well, do I throw them under the bus or do I take the heat myself? And I did the right thing. I took the heat myself.
I thought you were going to say throw us under the bus.
Don't think I didn't think about it. But no, I took the heat myself. And yes, the wind's blew. But
you certainly could have thrown us under the bus.
Because you weren't there.
Because we weren't there. And, she could do less to us than she could to you.
Well, and she knows you two pretty well, too, guys. So, she would have...
I love the Angel's Envy.
Poured the last of your Woodford.
Okay, good. I'm glad to get that one cleaned up. Now it's time to go buy a new bottle of something.
Yes. Michter's.
That's probably.
I would recommend giving that a go.
Yeah. And there was a couple other things. I don't even remember. I wasn't prepared for this.
I'd like to get a hold of a bottle of this Horse Soldiers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because that's supposed to have this great backstory to it with the
I know the one
founded by special ops guys who actually rode horses in Afghanistan right after 9/11.
Well, now I could get on board that one here. The one that I was really interested in picking up, and I will at some point, is Wild Turkey. It was one of there's several of those under that brand. I forget the specific one. It's Matthew McConaughey's favorite, and he's apparently a bourbon aficionado and connoisseur.
Okay.
And he's well known for this. He's from Texas. I can see.
All right.
That's
You should
right.
do that then.
Exactly. So I'm gonna take his advice and buy some of that. He says the best in the world.
So you've got the Basil Hayden,
the
family bourbon,
the family bourbon as it is, and it's if because I was asked recently, what is your favorite bourbon? I was like, great, how can you it's my favorite Star Trek episode? Come on, it's not you're gonna make me pick one, but yes, if held down, kicking and screaming to the floor, and made to pick only one, this is not Highlander, folks. This is Star Trek. This is bourbon, but. I would have to pick the Basil Hayden.
Mm-hmm. It is really good.
Good job.
It has of late moved up to with me right there next to the double oaked Woodford because it is so smooth. Oh,
it was one of our real first bourbons.
It was
as we
1992 election night.
That's right. And I paid $30 for that bad boy, which at the time I didn't have $30.
Right. That was an expensive.
That was
bottle
expensive
of
bourbon at the time.
Yeah, $30 nowadays. That's a good bottle.
Well, we're more well seasoned now than we were back then.
True, and our wallets hopefully are a little bit larger.
I'd like to think we've succeeded.
Although there are times I feel like it's squeezed as much as now as it was then. But
Well, the objects of desire are much larger.
true.
Well, that's true. Men in particular, when we go off the spending reservation, we have a tendency, statistically speaking,
That 80-inch
for higher
television,
ticket
yeah,
items.
it's calling me.
Ladies might buy 1 million pairs of shoes or clothes or something like that. When we guys go off and have those things, we buy Jaguars.
Yes.
As Patrick Stewart would say.
All right, so let me throw one more car at you.
Hurry up, because we've been talking about your cars the whole episode.
I know. 1968 Ford Fairlane 500 Sports Roof.
Oh,
Ford Fairlane? Really?
These are...
As opposed to a Ford Fairmont, which is something
Those are
totally...
garbage.
Yeah, exactly. Let's be
I had
clear.
one.
yeah, I did too. Yeah. Our family did, and I drove it some. Yeah.
So this goes back to the NASCAR days of trying to find... When stock car racing really was stock cars.
Right.
And the saying was, win on Sunday, sell on Monday. And these were a design attempting to be aerodynamic. Now, the sports roof didn't last long because what it turned out to be, of course, is this enormous expanse of glass over the back seat where the sun's baking your children in the back. So sports roofs did not last long. But, boy, that's a good-looking car.
Yes,
This sloped back end. If I could pick and could have a resto mod built, I would see if I could come up with a 68 Fairlane 500 sports roof.
Oh,
to resto mod.
so you would actively engage in adventures with Ford Fairlane.
Oh, very nice. Good one.
Thank you, Andrew Dice Clay.
Nice.
It had to come out, folks.
Yeah.
It had to.
But-
So yeah, those are all some really good ones.
Yeah, I mean, if you do the suspension, the brakes, and drop in a 5-liter Coyote and have a nice paint job and some good wheels, you really have something.
Yeah. So I'm going to go next.
Yes,
just
please.
because I'm going to jump in there before Francis says anything. And so I have several cars that I really miss owning, as well as when you're a kid. So my family, because cars are a big deal, because that's what my brother and my father did. Building model cars.
Oh, yeah.
Was a big deal too.
Really?
Yes.
I might build a couple military vehicles. And
See, growing up, my first love was the naval ships.
Yeah.
The Arizona. Oh my gosh! Every time I go to Hobby Lobby and I see they've got one, I'm itching to buy it and do another video.
I had a battleship New Jersey that was really kind of cool.
Built in Missouri a couple of times and
Somebody
things like that.
had built me
Planes.
the model aircraft carrier. I think it was the Enterprise.
That's the most popular one. That's very common. You can get them huge too if you're really into that.
Models are expensive nowadays. That's why I like to go to Hobby Lobby.
Yeah.
Because you can get stuff on sale there more easily than in most places.
Well, we went through our starship building phase.
We did. I still have some kits at home that I have not built.
Really, well, I still have the Excelsior in the box. I'm probably never going to touch it, and I also have a Battlestar.
See,
which was reissued. It's not the
Yeah.
the original one from the 70s is expensive, but they reissued it in the early 2000s. Because I always wanted one of those.
Oh, yeah. Me
but
too.
I never have done it. It's the original series, Battlestar.
Yeah, that's the one you would want to build anyway.
Exactly, and it's in my closet in there. And,
See, by now I would have done both of those. Well, at least the Battlestar I would have, because that's a cool one.
I wanted to, but the box doesn't look too bad on the shelf.
Well, you still have the box on the shelf.
There's some truth to that.
Yeah. So, anyways,
back to Marvel cars.
So, the first car, I still occasionally will look on Facebook Marketplace and other places for a 77 Nova.
They're out there.
They are. They are out there.
And they're very, that's the thing that...
They're fairly
when you
reasonable.
talk about resto mods,
Yeah.
that's one where you can change out the suspension parts, put disc
They were
brakes
enormously
on,
popular at the time.
and
Yes.
get a GM small block to drop in it.
Yeah.
They were very dependable. Very dependable.
Yeah, so that's one that I was seriously, maybe after the boy gets out of DeSales and I get that $1,200 a month raise from...
You're going to go start buying car stuff. Really?
I don't know what, I'm probably going to pay
might.
off debts first, but
Well,
hey. That's the thing that because I'm not going to have to pay for the boy's college education at
After
all.
Francis is a famous novelist here,
That's
he's
true.
going to have to buy a cool car.
Yeah, that's true, he will.
Really? Now that's an expense I hadn't thought about, but I kind of like that.
Well, especially when that first royalty check for the Blockbuster movie comes in.
Oh well, yeah,
You
sure.
know, that,
why not?
that Netflix multi-part series. Based
that
on
might be better. I think having just revised 10th draft, which I sent to you guys actually this past week, it's damn good. I think it really is.
77 Nova. I'd like it in red, the black interior.
Yep.
Obviously, I put in a more modern radio. I'm not one that has to have it factory original. To me,
Well,
The radio doesn't count.
You can
Everything else
get
can be.
radios that look factory, but have Bluetooth and all that stuff in them.
I could do that.
And see, that's
See, now that would be nice.
See, and then,
So-
then you just hook up your phone, and it looks factory, but
I would also, because I know it was an aftermarket thing you could do, I would want to have air conditioning. Because it was not standard on every model. I'm not even sure if it was ever available on one of those. But given it was 77, it probably was available.
Yeah.
But it wasn't
an option.
standard.
It was an option.
So
Yeah,
if I find one with AC, great. If not, I'd have to add it on because you can't have a car.
It's not hard to add on.
Yeah, because you got to have AC in this state. Because I'm not, you just have to. But yeah, that's one I'd like to have. A really nice, deep, rich apple red kind of a thing with that silver or white stripe along the bottom. It's not very big, but there's a part where the door kind of scoops in
Yes.
at the very bottom. I put it along there. That thing was great. I drove it back and forth from Michigan to Kentucky several times. And I had what we called the Palomino because it literally had 6 different colors on it.
Yep.
But I loved that.
But it
car.
was generally dependable. Yeah.
It was very dependable. It was just fun. I really loved that. I love the 76 Omega. The younger brother, or actually it would be the older brother because it'd be a year older.
Wow, that's going back. I haven't thought of an Omega in a long time.
Yeah. Well, and I had that in high school, so you guys never got to see that one.
Oh yeah.
And they were I just love those cars. I had bench seats. You don't even see bench seats anymore.
I had bench seats in my 78
Yeah,
Nova.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and it was a 2-door, which is great. But still, the back seat had a fair amount of space.
Yeah.
Because back then, cars, you didn't have to be a midget to sit in the back. Excuse me, a little person to sit in the back seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of my cars.
So, yes. And you mentioned another one at breakfast this morning. That
Yes, that was going to be the next.
Every 80s child's dream is a Porsche 928.
Yes.
So the risky business Tom Cruise Porsche.
See, now, I didn't even come to like it for that movie. Because, again, doing the models, found a model of which probably, I don't know if it was before the movie or not, but because I was building models probably before that would have come out. But that's where I first fell in love with that 928. That 928S is just a phenomenal looking vehicle. That rounded back end.
Yeah, first of the front engine Porsches.
Yeah.
Really, really a landmark vehicle.
Yeah. It's not as iconic as the 911, but it's got a more distinct look. It's like the 911 and the 930, because the 930 is the other one I really liked.
Yeah.
They look nearly identical, but the 930 is a better one, I think, than the 911. But those two, the 928, and that thing that just screamed fast.
Yeah.
When you looked
Well,
at it.
yes, and some of that is perception. I mean,
Yes.
even though it did do that, the reason it was so popular is because it, as you say, it screamed fast.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like there were, hundreds of thousands on the road here, but, it was still just an awesome looking car. And that was one I always wanted to have. That was, when I get rich and famous, that's the car I was going to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was a chick magnet. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's just because then I could afford it.
Well, and then you would, you would be a chick magnet at the time.
Well, I'm already a chick magnet. I got to beat him off with a stick.
Oh, of course, that's right. So
At least that's what the wife thinks, because she thinks I'm hot.
Well,
But
I would hope so. I mean,
she's got marriage goggles. They're not quite as bad as beer goggles, but they're up there.
They're up there.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so we got to put Francis on the spot and come up with one.
Oh, yeah.
Because if I start talking about models, then you got to bring in the Bandit Trans Am. I had a Bandit Trans Am model.
Well, everybody of our age, that's what everybody wanted in the late 70s. Everybody wanted one of those.
Oh, yeah.
And they wanted to be...
Because that was a chick magnet car.
Well, and everybody wanted to be Burt Reynolds, at that time.
Porn stash and all.
Well, very good, sir. That's right. It was... No. To be honest, and this is something very few men achieve, I'm driving the car I wanted to drive. I really am. I wanted a Mini Cooper. I got a Mini Countryman, which is the larger size, because I'm 6 feet tall. I'm not going to drive my car where I'm scrunched all the time, so it's got to be a certain size for me. That's why the small low riders, not interested in them. They're too small for me. I'm sorry. It's just a thing.
Well, we're also of an age. Martin and I are still in the double nickel. Whereas you have moved beyond that.
Yeah.
By the way, our good friend from Michigan, he hit the double nickel early this week. I guess you guys saw
you
that.
say something about that. Yes, exactly.
Shoot him an email or something. And
I don't know that I have his email.
I'll
address.
send it to you
Send
guys.
it to me. Yeah, we need to do that. Commiserating on that one.
Yes, and he was
explaining it's not so bad.
Right, and he was a little bit perturbed that I was being so jovial about the double nickel club. But anyways. I lost because I'm such a geezer. I think I lost my train of thought here.
That's all right. I think you're finished.
Well, you're just saying that.
I think
We got the same place of we don't like falling into cars.
Yes, now that we are older, getting in and out of the cars that sit lower is a little bit more difficult.
I don't see the attraction. I understand. I want to be able to imagine myself flying a Viper through.
But
traffic.
if you sit lower to the ground,
that's right.
The experience of how fast you're going is enhanced. The lower to the ground, the faster you seem to be going.
And keep in mind that there's a very famous phrase on Gas Monkey, Fast and Loud, that attitude is all about the altitude.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
that's a very famous motivational phrase.
They would, when you do the air suspension, though, you don't have to keep it low.
No. Exactly.
You raise it, get in, and then you lower it, and boy, it looks good. You got to get them low to look good.
Yeah, I understand. Well,
I mean, not so low that they're scraping the ground. I hate those.
The actual quote-unquote
the cars where they jack them up nowadays and then they drop them all the way to the ground.
Not interested. I love a 2017 Mini Countryman, and I don't know that I'll ever not, as long as the brand is made, I will continue to buy them. I can be the Viper pilot when I want to be, and she flies.
The thing I like about those is that they are, now granted, again, within the brand, it's the same design philosophy.
It is.
But that is a unique looking vehicle.
It is, very much so.
That is one of the things I like about it.
It's a racing car. I mean, it was designed, the original Minis, that's what they were. They're very British.
Yeah.
In fact, I will tell you this.
Yeah, they were rally winners, yes.
Very much so. And that's one of the things that I like, that's the coolness that they bring to the brand. That's one of the reasons I looked into it at one time.
Racing history.
Yeah. And this is my second Mini. The other one that I had before that, when I don't think I told you guys this, I may have. We were on Outer Loop going somewhere, stopped at a stoplight, just after I had bought that previous Mini. And somebody pulls up right beside me, and I don't even remember what they were driving, and they lowered their window and waved at me. I lowered my window, and there's a dad in the driver's seat and a kid in the passenger seat. And the dad looks over to me and says, "Pardon me, do you have any Grey Poupon?"
Nice.
I have often thought about keeping some Grey Poupon in the car, but
Just
of course,
for
such a moment like that, if it ever re-happens. Yes. Because he saw, that's British. That's finer things. And I'm thinking...
That's awesome.
So an Anglophile that right in your...
Very much so. And there is a...
Even though they're really German now.
Well, I understand.
That's okay. So
the royal family.
So the royal family.
But, like the way I look at it, it has class. It has esprit de corps. It shows you've arrived to a certain degree, and yet it's also sporty and even viperish if you want it to be. That's why I love my car.
When I was looking for my last car, I looked at some of the minis, but it went back to my first love, which is an American car.
The smaller version, the Cooper, and there's a mid version with not a hatch in the back, but more of a two-door back open. It's a little bit smaller.
The Clubman,
thank you. That's exactly what I was looking for. Considered it. But I'm thinking, I'm 6 feet tall. I can't do that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to feel scrunched. I want to love my car. And I had the Countryman before, and they had just upgraded the audio system with this new one.
Yeah.
Where you've got the full album art, which matters to a geek like me. Everything works really well. The other one just was not as sophisticated. Now they are. I'm thinking, okay, you guys have arrived. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And in fact, we bought that baby on the day of the eclipse.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally, we're sitting there signing the paperwork when we look out and it's dark outside. As it goes by, which was kind of a memorable thing.
Yeah.
Love my car.
The other thing I remember, just cars that I was also fascinated with. My brother had a girlfriend who had a little MG.
Oh, I love MGs.
Oh my gosh! Aren't those great?
Yeah,
you're going to be have them in the shop just as much as you're driving them.
Yes, they get as many miles horizontally as vertically.
Exactly. That's a good one.
Holy mackerel!
That's the lift.
Did you just make that up, or are you stealing that?
I'm stealing that from somewhere, and I don't remember
that's
where.
Okay.
And
it doesn't matter.
I even said them in the wrong order.
I know you're clever, but that's real clever.
Yes,
okay.
That's as many miles vertically.
But those things are just gorgeous looking. Oh my gosh!
And they're out there. And you see a lot of junkers out there that somebody's built. On those around these days. You don't see a lot of.
But an MGB. Even with the US spec and the giant bumpers and all that, MGBs were super cool to me.
Yeah.
You're talking about British. I mean, that was a British car.
Exactly.
Yep. And, the other one that held a fascination when it first came out because it just looked so damn cool and had those speakers right here in the headrest in between your on either side of your ear was the Fiero.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was another two-seater.
Two-seat mid-engine.
It was popular.
Oh, yeah. It was really popular.
And that was groundbreaking for the time, wasn't it?
It was.
You don't have speakers like that. And see, now the sound systems are to the point where you don't ever have to touch it, and nobody is blown out. But in the old days, you had to be able to work your fader back and forth because the backside, if somebody's in the back seats, they get their ears blown off.
Yeah, yeah. So, that was another one that was just fascinated the hell out of me. Wanted one of those. It's almost nothing from the '90s can I think of that really fascinated me.
It's over.
Pretty much. If it was anything after came out of college, it wasn't really that fascinating to me.
And one more '80s car, and for a long time, this was the best-selling car in the United States, Cutlass Supreme.
Oh, yeah.
A Cutlass Supreme
really?
From about 85, 86 with T-tops.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You borrowed your mom's Cutlass and you were hoping you'd find a girl to be in the back seat with.
It was
that was the 80s.
Yeah, I remember that.
That was a big thing.
We had a precursor to that in the 70s, which is the Olds 442.
Yeah. Well, that was a Cutlass, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you didn't call it the Cutlass, you called it the 442, though.
Yeah.
That was a car that I don't have a whole lot of memories of it because 50 years ago now. But I loved that car that my mom and dad had.
Our first new car was in '76. It was the Caprice Classic.
Oh, another great one.
It was a boat.
It was many doors.
Huge. It was absolutely.
Too many doors.
Well, we took that bad boy to Florida, which is a good, and it was Daytona. So you're talking about a good 12. It was 2. You had to do it 2 days. All 4 kids in the back seat.
Yeah.
and we managed. We didn't kill. It was possible.
Well, I mean, yeah, back in the day, the cars were small enough. I remember sleeping in the floorboards of a big car.
Well,
Hell, I remember sleeping in the back window.
The package shelf.
That's what we would do with we'd put my little brother back there. Either in the floorboard or in the back window, because all three of us outnumbered him, and he was smaller than we were. So come on,
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't have to do the math to figure
Look
that
at
out.
all the dead bees back here. It's cool.
But I mean, I had a Caprice in the '80s, and I mean, you guys remember it was the green car.
That's right. Yeah.
And God, that was a smooth driving car.
Oh, it was. I mean, it had air conditioning and seatbelts, which in '76.
Matter of fact,
that was
Caprice,
the new stuff had that stuff.
That's the vehicle that we took on our famous road trip.
Yes, the very famous
Thanksgiving
road trip.
Yeah,
It's
one of these days we really need to write that up, even if it's only like a Kindle single. We need to put that out there and write that story.
Easy to do. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great vehicle. It really was. It was comfortable. It got horrible gas mileage.
Absolutely tank of an engine. I mean, it
itself was a tank. It was one of the last cars, the last few years where cars were all metal, absolutely all the way around.
When steel was still steel.
Yes. So that was another great car. Almost every car that I've had, I have some fond memory of. I mean, there's some I would like to forget. But I mean, there's a Ford LTD that I drove for a little while. I'd like to forget that one.
Really?
Yeah.
But now there was not the LTD. The I actually had a '76 LTD that I got to drive. It was actually a family car.
That's what I had.
Now that one I liked. That thing could move.
Yeah.
But there was it might have been a Fairlane, but there was another Ford that I had. That was just such an ugly, horrible piece of crap. That car was the epitome of the old Chevy knock, which was found on road dead or fix or repair daily.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, that was just a piece of crap. But that LTD I actually really liked. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was really the first borrowed car. Was my mom's 1976 LTD 2-door hardtop.
Yeah,
which is a pretty unusual car.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, the one I had was a 2-door.
So no vinyl.
A rather dubious flotation. I never cared much for those. Having ridden them from time to time.
Well, you see, the 4-door at the time was your parents' car.
Correct. That's right. That was 2 doors.
And this was our second car. This was for Mom to drive. And even with 2 doors, I mean, shoot, you fold the seats up, we could still get in the back.
Right. Because that's when
it's
cars
still
were
huge.
Big.
Yeah. But 351 Windsor engine, and it wasn't even 10 years old when we got rid of it, and sputtered and died, and you couldn't even get out of the driveway with it. So no fond memories there. Then the next one was an '82 Ford Fairmount Futura.
Oh,
the 2-door with the looked like it had a handlebar across
You drove
the
that
top.
when we were in college, didn't you?
Yes. That was my dad's '82. Now that was a nice car because it was console, automatic at the floor, bucket seats, AM/FM radio.
Which was a big deal in those days. Yeah,
that car almost got me arrested. And
yes, the one you had to drive around a few times.
Drive around to try to get it to warm up so you could actually leave, and almost got me killed in the middle of Dixie Highway. So hated that car too.
Yep. Now, I remember because when you're a kid,
but it looked good.
You drive whatever your dad lets you drive.
Yep.
And because my dad was a mechanic, we constantly had different cars.
Yes, you have a unique diversity of experience when it comes to driving vehicles.
Yes. So we had a green Ford Pinto. Never exploded.
Oh, the Pinto. Well, that's right.
I saw a great meme today. It was one of the. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. It's the Pinto with the flames, but they're on the back.
Back going forward. Yes,
yeah.
That's a Marcus Aurelius special.
Yes, he's the one who posted that. He had a Ford Maverick.
Yeah,
drove that once in a while.
Yeah,
that actually wasn't a bad little car.
It was pretty popular too. Yeah.
Richard Rawlings drove the Mercury equivalent in high school, and they built one on Fast and Loud, the Vomit Comet. He had a green Mercury Comet, which is a Maverick.
Wow!
And I rode to Bellarmine in the backseat of a Maverick for a long time.
So yeah, that was one I semi fond memories of. There's not really a whole lot of the vehicles from back then. Probably at the time I hated them because they were all hand-me-downs. They weren't in great shape. But looking back at them through the eyes of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are times like I wouldn't mind having one of those again. Not necessarily any of the. Still, the only one I really want is that Nova.
Yeah, I mean, if we ever become executive producers of that
that
Netflix,
blockbuster,
or that movie
Yeah.
off of Francis's novel, I will either probably buy a K5 Blazer with the fiberglass top, or a Cutlass, an '86 Cutlass with two tops.
There you go. Well, you know, if you're really good enough, you can have it put in your contract that that's the car you get to drive while you're the executive producer.
You're right.
And then they let you just take it home because what else are they going to do with it?
Yeah.
Yes, kind of the no brown M&Ms
Right,
in your contract.
Right, everybody's got to have an ass.
I want cash, and I want an '86 Cutlass Supreme with T-tops.
That's right.
And velour seats.
Yeah, it's just like in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, you know, as her manager tells her, you got to have a weird ask. Everybody's got to have a weird ask in their contract.
Season 4 is coming.
Yes.
It's a fantastic show. Love that show.
So,
well, we're at 1 hour mark, guys.
It's got to be time
which
to wrap
I'm
this
kind of
up.
surprised. Well, I'm not, but, you know.
Well, we wrap it whole.
Give us a subject that we can go an hour on it. No problem.
No problem. So, Francis, what's next? Sorry, I stole your line. Every once in a while, I like to do that.
That's okay. It needs to be stolen every once in a while. I think that's a good thing.
Yes.
We're going to do history again next time. You know, after Hoopajoob, it's always a history, and it's January then, so we're going to talk about the Challenger disaster. It was very formative to us, and it was for many, many people.
Yes.
It was one of those moments that, like so many others,
Yeah, it's a Gen
where
X
were
touchstone.
you? Where were
really
you when
is.
it happened? And we'll talk about all that, and remember how childhood ended in many ways with that. It was one of the, very much like Kennedy assassination was for the generation before us. Everything changed, and we'll explore that and discuss that next episode. Don't miss it.
Hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes published every Friday at noon Eastern.
Spread the word. We're on all the major podcast platforms. And leave us a comment or review because that helps others find us.
We're on Instagram, Twitter, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com.
I'm Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis. Join us next week, same snake time, same otter channel.